Hello again, it's me, back with another Showdown in the Badlands Duels review. Now, I'm sorry that I haven't posted the last couple days. Things have just been crazy, but I was already planning on doing a longer episode today because of the situation with the Hunter reveals. So we're just gonna cover everything, all four classes that have been revealed up to today. So let's just get started because it's gonna be a lot. We've got Sneaky Snakes for Hunter. 1 mana, summon 2 1/1 snakes with stealth. And the snakes are beasts, obviously. This is cool. I think if you're running like a starving deck, especially Starving Bran, this is just a way to get some bodies out that like are pretty much guaranteed to stick unless a small AoE comes down. I like it. Moving on, we've got Silver Serpent, which is a 3 mana 2/3 beast with Rush and Poisonous, and Quick Draw, gain immune this turn. Holy crap, have Poisonous minions gotten good. I guess it's a Hunter specific beast, so it's allowed to be somewhat overstated, but like the last time we got a card with this stat line, a Rush Poisonous 3 mana card, it was dormant for a turn. So I like this. I don't know if this really goes into the base decks that much if you're like building a beast brand like I've suggested using Starving and the Discover a Beast hero power. Now that hero power discovers class beasts only, you'll be seeing a lot of this guy off the hero power. But without a specific keyword on it that triggers treasures, or at least non-ultra rare treasures, I just don't see it being like included in the base Duels deck. Definitely will be nice to draft this in lots of Death Rattle and Beast decks, as Showdown in the Badlands has a lot of good Beast cards in many classes, and a lot of good Death Rattles in almost all classes. So you'll see this card a lot in buckets. Next up, we've got 10 Gallon Hat, which is a 2 mana spell. It says draw a minion, give it +1/+1, and Death Rattle, get a 10 Gallon Hat. This card rules. I don't know if it's super clear, but if you have Mummy Magic or Deathly Death and play the minion that you draw off 10 Gallon Hat, it will gain Reborn when you play it, or it will trigger Deathly Death when it dies, which means that this is just a way to make your Death Rattle deck more consistent, more synergistic, and your cards that you've drafted that don't have Death Rattles will be whiffs less often if you have 10 Gallon Hat or more than one 10 Gallon Hat in your deck. So very nice. We've got Star Shooter, just a little arcane support card here for Hunter. 4 mana 2/3, after your hero attacks, get an arcane shot. So if this was just 4 mana, draw 3 arcane shots, that might be worth it. But you also get to swing with a weapon 3 times to deal 2 damage pings. So it's kind of like having 6 arcane shots for 4 mana, in a way. So I really like this card. I've been plugging along with Arcane Slate for a long time. I'm going to definitely slot this in. We'll see what happens. Bovine Skeleton. 3 mana 3/3, Undead Beast, Death Rattle. If this has 4 or more attack, summon a Bovine Skeleton. And I've just included a couple of the other Death Rattle Hunter cards here from the previous reveal that we went over, just to show the package we're getting here. Now, I don't think Saddle Up is really what we want to do, but Messenger Buzzard is just a flat-out good card. And Bovine Skeleton synergizes very strongly with Messenger Buzzard. Bovine Skeleton synergizes very strongly with 10 Gallon Hats. And Starving, which is whenever the first time a friendly beast dies, draw a beast. It has +1 attack. And then all of these work very well with the tier 2 passive, Mummy Magic, which is the first time you play a Death Rattle in a turn, it gains Reborn. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on here. And don't forget, we've got a little card called Bunny Stomper, which is a 2-mana 1/3 that gives all beasts rush just as a passive effect. So I think Beast Hunter, Death Rattle Hunter has some serious room to shine here. And whether it's just going to be Slate or it's going to be Bran with the Discover a Beast from your class hero power, I think we'll see both classes try it. I do think Bran will be slightly better just because of the inherent hand buff built into the hero power. But we'll see how it shakes out. And oh, I said all that and forgot about our best friend here, Spurfang. 5 mana 2/5, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Summon a random beast with cost equal to this minion's attack. Everything I said about those previous cards applies to this. Now, it is only a 2/5 at the start, but the cool thing is you can discover this to give it +1/+1. You can draw it with Starving to give it +1 attack. You can draw it with 10-gallon hats. And the more you buff it, the better it becomes. And if it has Reborn, oh, just forget about it. This is an amazing, like, not top end per se, but way to just get an insane amount of tempo out all at once. So now we're moving on to the Mage cards. I put this little guy up front just because I like him, but I want him to be better. He's a 4 mana 3/2 called Overflow Surger, Elemental, Battlecry. Summon a copy of this for each turn in a row you've played an Elemental. Just remove the text in a row, then this will be a playable card. Sunset Volley, 10 mana fire spell, deal 10 damage, randomly split among all enemies. Summon a random 10 cost minion. Day 1, Renos are going to be putting this card and Swiftscale Trickster into their deck. It's gonna be bad. It's going to make you not want to play Duels if you face the Reno that gets to play a Sunset Volley that was in their deck for 0 mana on turn 4. When that happens, I would probably just, wherever you have access to communicating with the, you know, like on the forums or on Twitter or wherever, anytime that happens to you, just let somebody know that Swiftscale Trickster needs to be banned. That's all there is to it. Swiftscale Trickster was never intended to be used with mage spells. It's just not right. I like the spell. I really do. Fire Mage is cool. This card can be generated by Flames of the Kirin Tor. And if you don't have Swiftscale Trickster and you're just running like a deck with Fireballs and Firelands Portals and Sunset Valley, wow. Love that. That would be so rad. I want to do it after Swiftscale Trickster is banned. Here's another cool fire card to add to that. It's a 2 mana card called Heat Wave. It says deal 2 damage to an enemy minion and its neighbors. Quick draw to all enemies instead. So it's a 2 mana Consecrate if it entered your hand the turn that you played it. And if it's not, then it's a, like, better cleave. It's a cleave that hits 3 minions. Like, this is just a really nice card. It's good at its base level, and it's good when it's quick drawed. Now, the only problem is, around that turn 2 mark, there are a lot of minions that are having 3 health these days. But I still think this allows you to just contest as a control deck, or even specifically as a fire deck, with the early game aggression, and just win board a little bit better. You can combine this with other fire spells to clean up. Stargazing. It's a 2 mana arcane spell. It says draw a different arcane spell. If you play it this turn, it casts twice. That's pretty cool. You could definitely make a small selection of arcane spells in your base deck and attempt to only draft those spells and have this do something really cool. Like, trying to do a light show thing, but honestly, I don't think that Arcane Mage is quite good enough, because the pool of arcane spells just has so much less damage. It's a lot more draw and card generation, and I definitely have seen mages with Arcane Flux, but they usually don't get very far because it's better to just have Sticky Fingers. There's so many non-typed mage spells that do card generation, and Sticky Fingers, of course, is every card that didn't start in your deck costs one less, but not less than one. Whereas Arcane Flux is the first time you cast an arcane spell in a turn, discover a card from your class. It's just, I'm not sure. I like the card, but I'm not sure that Arcane Mage will make it. Now, the cool thing about this is that it's stealing a name from a treasure in Duels. We know how this goes. When they released Murloc Homes, the Murloc Homes in Duels had its name permanently changed. So the Stargazing Treasure in Duels is going to have to get changed. I wonder what they'll call it. Azurite Vein. It's a 3-mana secret for Mage. When the enemy plays a card on the turn that it entered their hand, get a copy that costs 0. So, this is kind of a weird mana bind that sometimes gets you an Excavate legendary, like in Magical Christmas Land. No, what's gonna happen is that, just a preview for this card, we're gonna try to run this card in our secret deck in Duels, and we're gonna get this card off of our random secret generation and out of our buckets, and we're gonna be sad about it because this is so wildly untargeted, so wildly easy for your opponent to give you something bad with. I just can't imagine a world where this secret ever makes it, even in wild, even in standard. Just no. So we've got the Excavate package for Mage. So the Azurite Hawk, as you see up there to the left, is the 4th thing you will get when you Excavate as Mage. So just a little reminder on Excavate. The first time you Excavate, you'll get one of these cards down here at the bottom. Then the second time you Excavate, you'll get one of these 2-mana cards. And then the third time you Excavate, you'll get one of these 3-mana cards. The 4th time you Excavate as Mage, you'll get the Azurite Hawk, guaranteed. And then when you continue excavating after that, it resets the chain. So 5th is a 1, 6th is a 2, etc. As for the actual cards we're getting, Cryopreservation is just a 2-mana frost spell that freezes an enemy and excavates a treasure. Frost has some really interesting angles in Duels. Like the Azurite Hawk, again, being a 4-mana 5/5, get a random Titan, it costs 1. If we wanted to build a deck around Ring of Black Ice, whenever a creature is frozen, add a copy of it to your hand that costs 2 less, then we could theoretically build a deck where we get extra copies of our own strong Excavate-based battle cries, like Blast Mage Miner and the Azurite Hawk, in order to overwhelm our opponent. And this payoff that we see here, Reliquary Researcher, 4-mana 3/5, battle cry if you've excavated twice, cast 2 random mage secrets. This card alone is worth excavating for. Like the Azurite Hawk, cool, 1-mana Titan, we love that, and like it's something to do with your treasure, but this is impossible for your opponent to play around. Imagine if Mage had Titan Forge traps and you can never play around it. Because the cool thing with Titan Forge traps is your opponent is gonna pick the best secrets against you. And you know what those secrets are. In this case, yeah, there's a chance it could be Azurite Vein, but what if you can't play around Azurite Vein this turn? What if it's Objection? What if you have to play around Objection because it's the turn you want to play your big payoff card and you want to play your big payoff minion, but what if it's Objection? There's no information that could lead you to believing it is or isn't Objection. There is no information to read at all. 2 random mage secrets is actually crazy. Not to mention, there is that little matter of the 6-mana 6/6 that we play all the time in secret decks in Duels, which says cost 3 less for each secret you control. Yeah, I definitely see this seeing play in Secret Reno. I see this whole package seeing play in Secret Reno. And it just being more cards to generate, more cards that get Sticky Fingers value. And I also see a world where we try to focus Ring of Black Ice on Excavate cards. We don't build a secret deck. This is just Disruption, and we're building a Frost deck. And we get extra copies of Reliquary Researcher to annoy the heck out of our opponents. And then I didn't really talk about this card very much, but it's the legendary for Mage, at least the one we have revealed so far. The other one's coming in BlizzCon. His name is Tathalin Bloodwatcher. He's a 4-mana 2/5, and he says cards that didn't start in your deck cost 4 less, but not less than 1. Now, the thing is, the deck that would want this, has Sticky Fingers. Cards that didn't start in your deck cost 1 less, but not less than 1. And Orb of Revelation. The first time you discover in a turn, reduce the cost of all spells in your hand by 1, but not less than 2. Like, those cards already exist. Those treasures exist in Duels and are near guaranteed in the decks that want to run this. And this has to be on board. And it's a 2/5 for 4 mana. And, like, best case scenario, you cheat out a 5-drop. And then what have you done? You haven't cheated out a 5-drop. You've cheated out a 2/5. You've cheated out a 2/5. That's what you've done. Was that worth anything? No, never. Cool card, but far too fair. Moving on to Demon Hunter. We've got a cool little Naga thing going on this set, which is very fun. Just as a reminder, there is a Naga-themed treasure in Duels. It's called Coil Casting. It's a tier 1, and it says the first time you play a Naga in a turn, add a random 1-cost spell to your hand. Now, Coil Casting has always struggled to succeed. And the reason is because a 1-cost spell from any class is such a wide pool that it's actually very hard to reasonably get something you want. I would ask that we change the wording on Coil Casting to give you a 1-mana spell from your class, generating things like Oasis Outlaws in Demon Hunter. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but that would be my suggested change to bring Coil Casting up. However, there are other ways that we can use these Nagas, especially as this appears to be a card draw engine, and not only that, this is a Discover card. So you can get Discover passives with it. So it is 1 mana, Discover a Naga. If you've played a Naga while holding this, reduce its cost by 1. So I'm pretty sure this means it reduces the cost of the Naga by 1, but would love some clarification there. And I think this is pretty good. Like, just 1 mana Discover is fine, especially in Duels. Now, we're not happy that we're not discovering a spell, because generally when we're going Discover, we're trying to get Orb of Revelation, which is the first time you discover in a turn, reduce the cost of spells in your hand by 1, but not less than 2. However, there is another Discover passive that's called Staking a Claim, which is the first time you discover in a turn, give minions you control +1 attack. If we could try to target that with this Naga deck, we might be cooking. Just a couple more basic cards for Demon Hunter. We've got Pocket Sands, 2 mana, deal 3 damage. Quick draw. Your opponent's next card costs 1 more. Pretty cool. I like that it disrupts your opponent's. God, I'm so sorry. I like that it disrupts your opponent's next play if you generate it off the top or draw it off the top. It's just a sweet little ping. It's a dark bomb, and the little thing that it does is a great little addition. Now, will this see play in Duels decks? No, because it's not a fell spell that deals damage, which is generally what we're doing when we're trying to deal damage in Demon Hunter. But you will discover this card, and you will pick it often, because it's so good when you pick it off of a Discover. Load the Chamber, 3 mana Fell spell, deal 2 damage, your next Naga, Fell spell, and weapon costs 1 less. Holy moly. So 3 mana deal 2 damage is way underrated. But reducing the cost of all of these together, this might be what brings this deck together. Because there are some Fell passives. There's a tier 1, which I forget the name of, which is after you cast a Fell spell, deal 1 damage to the lowest health enemy. And the tier 2 passive, which is after you cast a Fell spell, give the left and rightmost hand cards in your hand +2/+2. Or +2/+1. With those treasures being possible treasures that we could target with this Naga deck, and being able to run Glaive-Tar, like, we already wanted to run Glaive-Tar, but, like, yeah, I think that this might be coming together. We've got this, which is the, like, all-star piece. This is the Spitelash Siren, and it's a 3 mana 1/5 Naga, Blind Eye Sharpshooter. After you play a Naga, deal 2 damage to a random enemy, and draw a spell, then switch. So then it will say, after you play a spell, deal 2 damage to a random enemy, and draw a Naga. If you have ways of making this bigger, this becomes such an insane powerhouse. If you have cheap Nagas and cheap spells, hello, Oasis Outlaws, this becomes very easy to use. If you have Fell spells that deal damage to your opponents, like Fell Barrage, oh, this just becomes so much damage. And the treasure, or the legendary, to cap it all off for the deck, still only costs 3 mana. It's a 2/3 Naga named Snake Eyes, Battlecry, roll 2 dice, then discover 2 cards of those costs. Doubles get an extra discover. So the way this works is you'll see him roll 2 dice onto the board. Let's say they hit 2 and 5. In that case, the next thing that's going to happen is Snake Eyes is going to give you a discover of 3 2-mana cards. And then right after, give you a discover of 3 5-mana cards. Then, for example, if you got Snake Eyes, 2 1s, or any other duplicate, so doubles, then you'll discover from that number 3 times. So say you got Snake Eyes, he rolled 2 1s, you would discover 3 1-mana cards in a row. And if you did have Orb of Revelation, the way that this would work is it would discover, after the first discover, the Orb of Revelation would reduce all spells in your hand by 1. So you would always want the first one to be a spell if possible, but then the second and third aren't going to get the reduction, which is a shame. However, this also does work with Staking a Claim very well. Though I do think this deck will likely prefer to get the Fell passives. You aren't going to be able to avoid seeing Coil Casting and most likely Staking a Claim. So there will be like swings and roundabouts, but the good thing is that if you have multiple tier 1s that you're targeting, then you never whiff entirely, or you very rarely whiff entirely, because say you're playing this and you want the one that deals 1 damage every time you cast a Fell spell. If you don't hit that, which is only a 50% chance to hit that, then there's still a chance you'll hit Staking a Claim. And if you don't hit Staking a Claim, then there's still a chance you'll hit Coil Casting. And no, we don't want Coil Casting, but who knows, maybe they'll buff it. Midnight Wolf is a 6 mana 6/6 rush. Outcast, summon a copy of this. A 6 mana outcast? Yikes. Yikes. I don't like this card, and I think it's going to pollute our hand and pollute our decks when we get it from card buckets. We want to run Showdown in the Badlands because it's a good set. And this card is going to appear in buckets, and it's going to be very sad. And even when you draft Bartendo Bot, the 2-mana 3/1, Battlecry, draw an Outcast card and slide it to the left of your hand. Even if you have that, like, you're not always going to draw Midnight Wolf. You might already have Midnight Wolf. Like, it's just so often, it's just going to brick your hand when Midnight Wolf shows up. So, don't like it. Don't want to see it. Parched Desperado. This guy should have been in the Naga package, but that's okay. He's a 2-mana 3/2 Naga with Battlecry. If you've cast a spell while holding this, give your hero +3 attack this turn. Yeah, it's damage. It's a Naga. It's a 2-mana 3/2. What's not to love? This guy is gonna go in that deck. We talked about Bartendo Bot. This guy is just the Demon Hunter Debricker. If you're running an Outcast deck, you might like to have a Bartendo Bot, but the only Outcast card we're seeing in Showdown in the Badlands is, of course, Midnight Wolf, and I don't want to build an Outcast deck. I don't want to build a deck that has Glaivetar and Midnight Wolf in the same deck. I'm sorry. So, I don't think we can run Bartendo Bot just based on that alone. Fun little note, if you look over here on the left, that is B.O.B, or Bob from Overwatch 2. She is the ultimate summon, or he is the ultimate summoned by one of the characters, the cowgirl character. Can't remember her name off the top of my head. And as you can see, he is absolutely the exact same character design here on the left and the right. And that sort of implies that Bob from Overwatch is the same Bob, or is like a robot version of the Bob from Battlegrounds. What? Okay, great, fine. And then lastly with Demon Hunter, we've got just a wild card. Unfortunately, we can't run it in duels, but I do want to talk about this guy. He's a 5-mana 4/6, Gunslinger Kurtrus, Battlecry. If your deck has no duplicates, fire 6 random 2-damage shots at minions in the enemy's hand. So what that means is, say your enemy has 3 4-health minions in their hand and no other minions. When Gunslinger Kurtrus hits the battlefield, he will ping each of them for 2 twice, and then they will die, which will destroy them from your hand. Now, if you had more minions in hand, and Gunslinger Kurtrus hits a minion in your hand but doesn't kill it, it will have a red health number when it hits the board. And you'll see it in hand. Pretty cool. I like the mechanic, but it's not... Yeah, it's not. It's not gonna happen, because it's a Highlander card. So that's the Demon Hunter cards, and we're gonna move on to Rogue. So first we've got 777s. It's a 7-mana spell that says deal 7 damage to a minion, draw 7 cards. Pretty rad. I don't think, like, we needed it to deal 7 damage to a minion to want to play it, but the thing is, draw 7 cards is a lot of cards. It's too many cards when you have 15 cards in your deck. And though your deck will eventually have more cards than the average Hearthstone deck, drawing 7 cards could still really hurt you, except in some very explicit scenarios. And that pretty much just comes down to running this as a reload in a deck that is almost entirely 1-drops and 2-drops. If that becomes like a Miracle Rogue angle, it's possible. But that deck would probably run the Lillian hero power that generates a random 1-drop every turn. And you definitely don't want to draw 7 cards in that deck. So I don't see where this goes, other than in a bucket that I'm not going to take. Stick up. 1-mana discover a quick draw card from another class. It's just a cheap little discover. It guarantees a quick draw from a class. So lots of spells in the pool if you're trying to do a Orb of Revelation thing here, which you probably want to do in like Reno. And the quick draw cards are so so good when you are discovering them. There's like 0 mana, gain 7 health. There's all sorts of stuff. I can't even like get into it. But the important thing is that this is a 1 mana discover. Moving on, we've got a 3 mana 3/4 Bounty Wrangler. Quick draw or combo, get a coin. So it's or, so you can never get 2 coins from this. But it's a 3 mana 3/4, get a coin. And as I'm sure you know, coins are the strongest spell in Miracle Rogue. Now, whether or not that equates to the same thing in Duels is another question. Historically, the Rogue location and Draka have not been that good, which are the payoffs for this. So I'm not sure that Rogue is going to want to do the generate a bunch of coins thing. But if you do, it's here. Shell Game. 3 mana spell, get a random epic, rare, and common card from other classes. This is fun. Burgle Rogue just needs more random generation. And like it's completely untargeted, so you don't know what you're gonna get. You're gonna be tilted when they get something very strong off of it, but it's never gonna be a legendary. So that's very, very worth noting. Sticky Fingers decks will like this, but I don't think they'll be super... Well, no, Sticky Fingers decks will run Showdown in the Badlands because of the Excavate package, which we're getting to very shortly. First, we've got another payoff for having coins. A 5 mana 0/7. After you play a coin, get a random legendary minion from another class and set its cost to 1. And you can play that legendary right then because you just played a coin. Very strong. However, it is a 5 mana 0/7. And you have to have coins in your hand for it to literally do anything. And we don't have unlocked potential in the set anymore. Well, it's ultra rare anyway, so you can't get anything out of it being a 0/7. I'm not sold. Now, the Excavate package. I teased this a little bit, but the important thing to note is that the Azurite Scorpion is a 4 mana 5/5 with Battlecry. Get 4 random spells. If you've excavated 8 times, they cost 0. Generation Rogue and Generation Reno will find a way to excavate. I can guarantee it. And Reno will be even better because both Mage and Rogue are excavating. And I don't know what that means for excavating the 4th time. I assume you'll either randomly get the Azurite Hawk or the Azurite Scorpion. I'll have to double check. But we'll figure that out when we come to it. The actual Excavate cards for Rogue are pretty decent here. We've got a 1 mana 1/3 weapon, Bloodrock Company Shovel, Death Rattle, Excavate a Treasure. Kinda don't like it. It's a little weak for what it is, and a 1 mana 1 attack weapons have always been very poor in Rogue because of the hero power, especially if you're trying to do a weapon thing in Duels. You've got a much better weapon hero power. However, this will definitely be run in the card generation Rogue decks where you're not running that hero power, and so you don't have the natural weapon, which means you won't be able to break this on your own terms. You will have to swing the 3 times, which kind of does make it worse. However, Drilly the Kid more than makes up for it. 4 mana 4/3, Mech, Battlecry, Quick Draw, and Death Rattle, Excavate a Treasure. Hoo boy, that is a lot of excavations. And you better believe we're shadow stepping this. You better believe it. We are getting as many copies of Drilly the Kid as we can. Especially if we're playing Reno. So, I definitely think Excavate Rogue is going to make its way into Duels, and Excavate Reno will definitely find its way too. Because these decks already exist. They are running Discover treasures and spell-based treasures, and those treasures will work well with this package. And the actual payoff for playing Excavate is almost better than the one in Mage. It's a 4 mana 5/4 Battlecry. If you've excavated twice, destroy an enemy minion. This just clears a Titan. This clears a 8/8. It clears whatever you need it to clear, and lets you just carry on your game plan. Yeah, we like it. I definitely think that these generation decks will want to try out the Excavate package. I'm not sure about Lillian or Mozaki specifically using the Excavate package. I am very strongly suspecting that Reno, with both the Mage and Rogue Excavate packages, is going to be very strong in the coming weeks. But we'll have to see how it all shakes out. Thank you all for watching my video. I know it was a longer one, so thanks for bearing with me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.